This is a video about contestability. Porter's five forces is also a really interesting thing to look at when you're doing this section. And this is usually something they study in business studies, but it's got a lot of relevance to market structure in particular. So when we're looking at market structure, we were looking at really this middle part, the rivalry amongst existing competitors, and Porter's five forces is a model that explains why some industries make a lot of profit and some industries are not that profitable, and each one of these is a force that can either the stronger that it is, the less profit that the firm or the industry will make. So if there's more rivalry amongst existing competitors, the industry is going to make less profit because there's going to be more price wars and those types of things, but threat of substitutes as well, determined by how many firms there are in the market, and the bargaining power of suppliers that can increase cost of production, the bargaining power of buyers as well, which can reduce down costs. But I think what's really interesting about Porter's five forces is this top element here, the threat of new entrants. So how likely is it that there's going to be a new firm that enters the market? And that's what we're looking at with contestability. So a contestable market is one where there is a threat of entry from new firms. Okay, now there have to be certain conditions met for a market to be said to be contestable. So you've got to have free entry and exit, so very few barriers to entry, so it's got to be easy for firms to get into the market. So they've got to have the same access to technology, so they have the same or very similar cost curves, and therefore the incumbent can't exploit a huge minimum efficiency scale and use limit pricing and those types of things. It's got to be no sunk costs, because those are costs that can't be recovered, and that would be a barrier to entry and exit. The other condition is there's got to be a pool of potential entrants, so that it is a credible threat. There are firms that want to enter the market. Okay, now when we get contestable markets, it means that there's a threat of what we call hit and run entry, and this is a term that you need to know. It's where new firms enter the market to cream off some of the supernormal profit from the incumbents, and then they exit after they've gained from this supernormal profit. So if we have a look at a monopoly market here, and we've got, just get my pen out, we've got marginal revenue, marginal cost, point of intersection. So this is where the monopoly producer would produce, and here's their profit maximizing level with the supernormal profit in the green square. But if there is a credible threat of entry, what they will do is they'll actually produce at this point here, where average cost intersects average revenue, and that we know is the point of volume maximizing, firstly, but also it's a point where you're only making normal profit. Okay, so the firm is going to make normal profit, so it's enough to keep them in the industry, but there's nothing above that level, so it's not enough to attract any new firms into the industry. So, is it realistic? Well, is it realistic that you can recover sunk costs, or is it realistic to think that there aren't sunk costs of entering into a market? Anything that you spend on branding is likely to be a sunk cost. So that might diminish the contestability of a market. You also, let's not forget that the longer in the market you are, the more expertise you build up, and so that might be a cost advantage that you can gain over other firms. And pool of potential entrants, question mark, are there a pool of potential entrants? I know that the government, when they privatised the rail network in the UK, were trying to make it quite a contestable market, but actually the firms that bid for railway franchises, so a franchise, just the right to operate the railway, so Virgin Trains I know operate between the Northwest and London, and it's only Virgin Trains that run that route, but usually when franchises come up for renewal, it's actually existing firms who are running like different networks. So I think Virgin now operate East Coast as well, so they bid for that line as well. So you've got to have a credible threat of potential entrants. So, you know, often maybe the rewards in the market are not significant enough, or the risk is too high for firms to enter the market. There can also be innocent entry barriers. So these aren't barriers that firms necessarily create, but you know, large minimum efficiency scales because of economies of scale. Is it realistic to think that firms aren't going to be able to gain from economies of scale? So that would give firms a cost advantage. And there are strategic entry barriers as well. You know, the incumbent firm that's making loads of supernormal profits not really just going to take this. They're going to maybe initiate hostile takeovers of the firm that's trying to enter the market, possibly. They might use limit pricing, predatory pricing, might try and create greater brand loyalty, spend more on advertising, research and development, patents, those types of things as well. However, the threat of new entrants could be from large foreign firms. So by this I mean, you know, is it realistic to think that firms who have no knowledge of the market and are entering as small players can enter the market and can seriously compete with the incumbent firm? No, it's not realistic. We know that in real life, economies of scale happen, and in real life, these firms have built up expertise and brand loyalty. However, maybe it's not a small firm that's going to be entering the market. Maybe it's a large firm that have built up expertise, built up economies of scale in their home country, and then they come over to the UK and enter our markets. And so they are a credible threat, and it does make the market contestable. So Aviva, who are or Aviva. I can never remember which one's the insurance company and which one's the transport company. But one of those, I'm pretty sure, is a German company, and they run a lot of buses and they run a lot of trains in the UK, for the UK transport network. And they are competing with Virgin, which is a British company, because they've built up expertise from Germany and they've built up economies of scale from Germany where they operate. So it's much more realistic these days that it's a foreign firm that's going to enter the market and be that kind of credible threat. So in summary, contestability equals less need for the government to intervene in certain markets. So that surely is a good thing and can create a market where a monopoly behaves a little bit more like a competitive market without there actually being competitors.